Well, welcome back, folks. This is, again, Crisis in Flint, Michigan. My name is Richard Hairston. We, of course, sitting in with Dr. Deidre Wilcoxon. And we have on our live line Leela McGee Harvey. Leela McGee Harvey, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
I thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for having me again. I appreciate all that you're doing down in Detroit. Greatly, greatly appreciate it.
If I could just send a message to the engineer, we need less echo, and we need a little more volume if that's possible. While they're working on that, you've actually provided us with a guest this morning, who can really give us some detailed information on really what it's like on a day-to-day basis, living in Flint and having to deal with uh, just the struggles of surviving it with bottled water, the whole question of the veracity of filters and the advice coming from the governor and now the governor, the president, and now the mayor, in terms of encouraging folks to get involved and run water and actually use this water that's coming from the faucet with a greater regularity. If you can just give us some information about our guest this morning.
I really will. Good morning, Bishop.
Good morning.
Great. What's really interesting is that somewhere down the line, and I can't say how or where, but I'm sure Bishop knows, and that'll be another show, we are related, okay? And I discovered that probably about 3 or 4 years ago. To have her on the show is just iconic for me because not only is she a family that has suffered with her children, and her grandchildren, she'll be able to give you that testimony of what it's really like to live in the city of Flint and to transcend and travel through what we call this tedious mess. She's also a hard hitter in our community. She's the last one to go home, the first to rise, fighting for our community. If it's not this leg issue, it's another issue, it's another issue. And so I wanted a family who could respond or would be able to answer any question that was given, but could give the actual testimony of everything that they've incurred and our children are incurring. And the damage, we're talking about the post-damage that they're experiencing already. So I wanted you guys to be able to ask those questions and the listeners to really hear what is really going on in the city of Flint. And let's keep in mind, prior, when I first joined your show, I know many times people have asked me, has anything changed? From my eyes and being on the ground, nothing has changed. As a matter of fact, our water supply units are drying up. And there was an article that just came out and said we needed more water. So for us, nothing has changed. The pipes are not being changed as of right now. For whatever reason, we're talking about the end result needs to be, first, our children, the sick and shut-ins, those whose immune systems are compromised. We're talking about these individuals. And after saying all that, I would love to say good morning to you, Bishop.
Good morning.
Oh, great, great, great. Are you there, Richard?
Yes,
Yes.
and Bishop, if you could just kind of begin to talk about the kind of work that you do, and actually what what constitutes your family, maybe the ages, and what are some of the problems that you're having to deal with on a day-to-day basis with this true crisis with this lead poisoning in Flint.
Well, I'm a local pastor in the community, and I'm also activist in the city. In the city, the state, wherever I'm needed to speak out on behalf of the people, because so many people cannot speak for themselves. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. And so I investigate, I search out, and I go forth. If it goes to the government, I go to the governor. If I have to go to the mayor, I go to the mayor. Whatever part of administration or government that has to be talked to, I go, whether it's in Detroit, Lansing, Washington, Pontiac, Saginaw, it doesn't matter because, and then you have to know what's going on, not assume, not think, but ask questions and go forth. And so because of that, many people think the problem is the water. The problem is not the water. The problem is the emergency manager, which I've been fighting that since 2011. I was Stand Up for Democracy chair for Genesee County in 2011 to repeal Public Act 4, which is the emergency manager law. So this is a result of the emergency manager law. When we under dictatorship, when one man is causing the shots for everybody, then somebody misses out because he's not able, like you say, he didn't know, which is a lie. He did know that we have problems with the water here in Flint. He did know that they're turning off water in Detroit. He did know that they're taking all our land and all our assets and giving them away or selling them for pennies. So this is just one of the results. So I fight wherever I'm needed to fight and whoever I'm needed to fight for, and that's what I do. I don't stay located right in the four walls of the church building, but I'm out there trying to be a help in the community.
And I want you to talk about some of the things that you experience from your parishioners or individuals in the communities where you function. I want you to just think about just the day-to-day problems that they think about. But before we do that, I have a caller that's been waiting for so long. And so let's take this caller. And then, Bishop Jefferson, we want to come back to you and just kind of give us some real insight into what it's like to live on a day to day basis.
All right.
Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Hello, caller.
Good morning, Richard.
Yes, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
This is Deputy Chief.
Hey, look, couple of things here. Uh, Beverly Kendall Walker, she put out a lot of vital information that the citizens need and is entitled to. I think what would serve the community best is if we could possibly set up some type of debate between her and her opponent, Eric Sabree. I don't think Ms. Walker would have put that information out that she did. Again, it was vital information, and I don't think she would have put it out if it wasn't accurate and true information. So,
quite frankly, she comes with
if we could have that debate at TV 33, it would not only help the station, it will also help the community. Number two, your guests, both from Flint, on the line. My first question is, are the citizens of Flint still required to pay property tax with this dilemma? And
yes.
what are your guests on the phone, what are their positions on community benefit agreements?
I have to say, Richard, this is Leila from Flint. You can barely hear what he's saying.
I can barely hear anybody.
Okay. Well, the first question was, are citizens in Flint still required to pay property taxes?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are, absolutely.
And high water bills that we can't drink the water, we can't cook with the water. We pay the highest water bill in the state or
in the nation.
Yes.
And that's what based on the study that was done, actually,
Yes.
highest water bills in the nation.
Currently our water bills run, Richard, $837 annually, but Bishop and I know they're much higher because we get the average water bill that's about $150 to $170, if not over $200 a month. And also, the average water bill in the state of nation in the suburban areas is probably annually about $337. And that information is comprised inside of Attorney Chet's RICO lawsuit.
Richard, one of the things that I believe that the citizens of Flint can do is put their property taxes in escrow until they receive the services that they should receive for their tax dollar, because right now they're not getting it. And so my second question is to both of your guests, what is their positions on community benefit agreements?
Community
I, I
benefit agreements.
I didn't hear the question.
Well, and it is the position on community benefit agreements. For example, with the Carigande Water Authority, in order for Flint to get involved in that, there would have to be some additional I guess, payback to the city, where there would be something additional that they would do for Flint, if Flint would get involved in this water authority. So the community agreement would be that extra amount that a corporation would have to pay to actually get tax breaks, or to get some sort of remunerative advantage from the city. How do they pay those individuals in the city for awarding them a contract, or some sort of opportunity for that corporation?
Well, you have to keep in mind a lot of this was done behind the closed doors. A lot of it was convoluted, and what we're hearing now from inside sources is that you're trying to backtrack because the feds have been in here for so long investigating. And prior to advocates and water warriors and people like Bishop Jefferson standing out and hollering, they would have gotten away with this. But everything is being pulled out of the drawer. You know how Mama used to come into the house, the room, and say, "You're going to clean everything and pull everything out the drawers and
Sure.
refold it." That is what's taking place now. And so we really won't be able to answer a lot of those questions because there is a group now moving to undo what has happened to the Carigandi Water Authority and giving different options that we can choose, even talking about going to the court system if we have to, because you have to keep in mind that the citizens of Flint, when this pipeline was taken from the city of Flint, as Bishop alluded to earlier, and we almost want to say given over to the county, we have 36% interest in that. Now, you have to understand how investments work, and most of us do know. You invest in something and you're waiting on your return. We won't receive a dollar from an investment. So when a city is under duress, who makes such investments such as that? We won't receive a dollar. An asset is taken, granted over, and we are 30% responsible, but we don't even receive a dollar back on the return. It's going to cost us $196 million to help build that. But over the long period, what people are not paying attention to, and this is where it gets really murky, is the $196 million is for the bonding. But nobody is talking about the usage. When you combine the bondage and the usage together, the poorest city, second poorest city in the United States of America, which is Flint, Michigan, will be paying over $600 million for a water authority that does not belong to them.
Mm.
Ms. McGee
Not
Harvey,
only that, we didn't have a choice whether we were going to go to the Carigandi. They decided to invest in it, and they did it. And then they promised, what was their promise? That we were going to save money. But from the beginning up until this very day, we continue to lose money and to give out that we don't even have, because people are decided whether I pay my water bill or whether I buy food, whether I do this or do that. So there was not a choice. City council didn't vote on it. They decided, and they took our money and used it without our permission.
Bishop Jefferson and Ms. McGee Harvey, relative to community benefits agreements, the one that I'm most familiar with is wherein a municipality says to an entity that wishes to avail itself of either tax abatements, or it looks at reaping some other benefit as a result of capital products or projects, I should say, large capital projects. And the municipality will insist that a percentage of the jobs that are required by that entity are actually filled by residents in the community. So there's a direct benefit to the community as a result of that entity receiving the breaks that they receive. And based on what I've been reading and Ms. McGee Harvey, listening to you over these many weeks, I haven't heard anything that would even remotely resemble the city of Flint's residents getting anything directly out of this deal. And I do agree with the bishop. It seems as if your money has been taken from you and directed in a way that you are not party to or privy to even the intimate discussions relative to the expenditure of those monies. And Bishop, if I could just say, as a resident of the city of Detroit, if I did not know what you were talking about as it relates to the city of Flint, I would think you were talking about the city of Detroit, because everything that you describe in terms of what has happened to you under emergency management in Flint has definitely happened to the city of Detroit as well. And I do think that you're absolutely correct in that this is a bigger issue. The city of Flint's water difficulty was just an incident of the catastrophe that was heaped upon municipalities across this state, primarily those of African origin, that were not given an opportunity to participate in the process, and assets were raped, pillaged, and just used for other folks' purposes, with the residents of the municipalities getting virtually nothing out of it other than to say at some point we owned A, B, C, and D, and now we don't own it, and it was taken from us as a result of emergency management. So the situation in Flint is so remarkably similar to what's happening in the city of Detroit.
We have a list, and we can talk about the electrical,
The lighting
the
authority.
lighting authority, along with a actual electrical plant. We can talk about
Is that Miss
the cultural center. We can that
the
the African American
DIA?
Museum is actually involved with, and we don't control that. And the list from the zoo. Just the list is really
Detroit Windsor
long.
Tunnel,
Windsor Tunnel. Uh,
Kobo.
do you have such a list that has really been sacrificed as a result of emergency management?
Oh yeah, we
Yes,
talked
we
about
do.
our list yesterday because I was afforded. This is Leela speaking. I was afforded the opportunity to talk to Attorney Chet. If you remember, I had him on the show
Yes.
previously. We're looking to bring him back because he did do an amendment to the lawsuit, the RICO lawsuit, and what he did was incorporated where he was able to validate and substantiate the marginalized racism and what motivated this KWA. And so it's a really good opportunity for us to ask some really hard questions. But he was able to take surrounding areas, and Bishop will be familiar with these areas: Montrose, Flushing, Clio, Linden, and all of them, which are under Detroit water, still under Detroit water source, and how they maneuvered around where there were 67%, almost 65% African Americans. And so it's going to be interesting as we move forward to gather and continue to gather all of the information. But we were just comprising a list last night, and we started with the Atwood Stadium that was given away, which was Bishop knows how far back we go with the Atwood Stadium. She's older than I am, and we're talking about $1 over to Kettering. And when we had it, it was in need of repairs. When the city owned it, it was in need of repairs. And as soon as the EM came in and gave it over to Kettering, they gave them $6 million to revamp it. We're talking about senior citizen centers that were taken. We're talking about there was a dispute between one of our towers given over to Mott Foundation for probably pennies, but the citizens were forced to pay $6 million prior to that year. It was knocked down because they wanted to have the tallest building downtown, which was the Mott Foundation. Genesee Towers was knocked down, and now it's a park. We're talking about even the money that's supposed to come in for the piping now is going over to rebuild our community, is going to build them a Capitol Theater. You know, it never goes on, and I'll let Bishop go ahead and talk about some of the things that they've taken, but it's just, it's mirrored, and it's mirrored in Pontiac, and it's mirrored in Flint, and it's mirrored in Detroit. It's mirrored wherever melanated people are.
Not only that, when we think about, it was bad enough to give it away for $1 or to sell it for $150,000, but after they gave it away for $1, then we had to pay to have it torn down. When they sold the center over there that was an asset to teaching the children culinary. It was a very nice place to have breakfast or lunch at, and they gave it away for $150,000. They did not put it up for a bid, and then they turned around and agreed to pay the consumer power bill for a year. For a year, so we made nothing out of that. And then they turned around and they just tore it down last month. So they're not only are they giving our assets away, but they're charging us to maintain whatever they given away. So there's no way that we can become self-contained of being able to take care of our community because we don't have any assets to bring in revenue.
You know, it's kind of
And they
interesting.
made sure that everything,
And it's kind of
including
interesting.
Burley Hospital,
And it is
everything.
interesting.
When you talk about downtown development, they brought in people from the county to pay to get the benefits, the tax deductions, but not the people in the city of Flint. We're not even privy to even being there.
Well,
And I think too, one of the things, the analogy that I had given prior to Bishop on the previous radio show is the bully at the park. You know, where everybody's scared to come to the park, everybody's scared to play in the sandbox, everybody's scared to get on the swing, and a lot of times in our community, most people are afraid to think what we say. They won't even think what we say. And so when we talk about the design and the strategy to move all African Americans out, we talk about gentrification, we talk about eugenics, we talk about that. We know that is all derived from the plan of Stuart Charles Mott Foundation. Nobody wants to talk about that. If we want to make right Flint, we got to bring them out of the closet. I am sick and I am tired of everybody tiptoeing around, the very people who turn around and give us $300,000 to pacify us, and then turn around and create a $100 million project that disenfranchises African Americans. I'm sick and I'm tired of the pastors in our city bowing down to these powers at hand as they come through our city and destroy it as a terminator, and this is their plan. I am so sick and tired of watching for years and years and years people who are in position, and we elect these people in position, and they are afraid to speak out. There is no one who can't be taken down, and I'm sick of tired of being sick and tired of their designs and their things clandestine and convoluted. It is time now. If we want to change our community, we have to deal with the monster.
You know, and I guess we could have extended the list because Bishop, you said something that was really so important, is that once these cities have been, and I think you mentioned it as well, Dr. Wilcoxon, is once these emergency managers leave these cities, they have taken away with them the opportunities to even make and create new revenue. We have a
Right.
situation with Belle Isle that took about $6 million to maintain over the course of the year, and we have actually provided more than that money into the I guess the state park system that really exceeds that $6 million. But of course, the kind of leadership that you just referred to, Mr. Leland McGee Harvey, where they have been compliant and willing to go along for the sake of maintaining the paycheck. Cities have been again just raped of their ability to continue to make money. We look at the water system, the same thing. We lost a lawsuit that would have cost us less than $30 million to actually resolve. We gave away the Macomb Interceptor that was a $500 million asset for less than $30,000. So you talk about how this thing is being mirrored all over. Well, that's certainly the case. Let's take one more caller, and then we'll come back to you, Bishop Jefferson, and just talk about what the struggle is like for families. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Hello,
Good
caller. You're
morning,
on the
Dr.
air.
Richard.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. This question is for Bishop Jefferson and
I'm sorry, I
Mr.
didn't
Mickey
hear you.
Harvey. You know, y'all
I can barely hear him.
manager is a case being heard on August the 4th. Have y'all heard about it?
And,
At the Sixth
and
Circuit
he's
Court
talking
in
about
Cincinnati?
he's talking about the case that's actually being heard at I guess in Cincinnati at the
Yes.
Sixth
Circuit
Circuit
Court of
Court,
Appeals.
and it is the lawsuit against the emergency manager.
I am one
And
of the signers on that lawsuit.
you are one of the
I am
plaintiffs on
I
that
am
group.
one of the signers on that lawsuit
Okay.
against the state of Michigan and the emergency manager law. And what happened was we filed that back in 2013 after they had the lame duck session for Public Act 4, and he enacted Public Act 436, which was, he just changed a couple words around, and it was the same law. And so what we did, we filed a lawsuit in 2013, in February 2013, which would give us the right. See, and they voided out everything but one. But then after Snyder, after the water crisis here in Flint, it gave us privy to redo the lawsuit and include all those things that had been taken out because of the emergency manager. And so the hearing in August is where we were able to re-add all the points that we were fighting for with the emergency manager law. So we're excited about being able to go to court August the 4th, because once we win the case, y'all did hear me, once we win the case,
Yes.
then we can give back everything that they have stolen from us.
Brother Patron, that's what you were kind of talking about, is that we should be extremely excited about the opportunity to go to the Sixth Circuit Court, and we should be planning caravans and buses to take as many people from Flint and from Detroit and Benton Harbor and so many other these other cities, so that there is action in the courtroom, but they can also see that there is action in the streets, and that the citizens of Detroit are really involved and want to see justice done in this case.
That's right, Rich. Everyone who is concerned about liberty and justice for all, any group in America, should be active and participate in this court case. They should be in Cincinnati. I am planning to organize people here in Detroit to make sure that this does not happen again in America, because we were there 14 years ago, but I don't think we made an impact. We need to make an impact on August the 4th. At 8:30, we need to have those steps and around in surrounding areas full with citizens and patriots that loved freedom and democracy.
And I'm guessing you would agree, Bishop Jefferson, that the citizens need to be there with you in Cincinnati. Hello, Bishop Jefferson.
Good morning.
Leland McGee Harvey. Hello, are you there?
Did we
This
lose
is Bishop. I'm here, and my phone is getting ready to cut off because my regular phone messed up, and I know it's getting ready to cut off.
Well, the excitement about it, and how important do you think it is that we need to take buses and caravans of cars down to Cincinnati? And is there a like movement to get people involved in Flint as well, as Brother Patriot is doing here in Detroit? And that is, and I know that there's a problem with the phone, but Brother Patriot,
Yes.
what should we be looking forward to? Is there a contact number for other folks who want to get into the planning phase of, again, scheduling loads and caravans of cars and buses into Cincinnati?
Yes, they can call me at 313-808-7384.
All right.
I'm sorry, but
Okay,
you have
I can't write that number down.
We will have that number. People always make a difference. When
Email
we
me
show up,
or
It
Gmail.
lets them know that we're interested. It lets them know that we care, and we let them know that we're not going to be quiet about the situation. So it's always important for the people to show up.
And Brother Patriot, give that number again.
Okay, that's 313-808-7384. Or they can email me at bigles, Bigles, that's one S, the number 6 and 8 at gmail.com. If they are planning a trip to Cincinnati, we need everybody to, even on skateboards, bicycles, tricycles, everybody need to show up because this case is just too important to ignore. We ignored it
That's right.
in masses 14 years ago, and look what happened. Flint wouldn't have never happened if we would have showed up 14 years ago in great numbers.
So
Um,
true. And will you repeat his number again, because part of it got
I do
dimmed
have it,
out. I
Bishop.
don't
I have
know
it for you.
what it is.
It's 313
Uh-huh.
808 7384.
808.
313
Let me try.
313
Uh-huh.
808 7384.
That's it.
Okay.
So
I have it.
I am on board with this because, I think everybody needs to be excited about being in Cincinnati to finally get rid of this emergency manager. We have tried to legislate it out. We have tried to argue it out. Now it's time to fight it out.
So
I
true.
couldn't agree with
I
you.
agree
I could not agree
100%.
with you more, Brother Patriot, in that this is really a fight to the death. You cannot relinquish any of the battles that we're fighting. You cannot stop fighting in court. You cannot stop fighting legislatively. You cannot cease taking to the streets. You cannot cease fighting this on the public stage. I think there's a common thread that is flowing through Flint, Saginaw, Benton Harbor, Detroit, and that is abuse of power. We, as residents of the state of Michigan, have given our state legislators and our governor power. We conceded power when they were elected. We did not concede power to them, however, for them to abuse that power. And this is exactly what they've done. These are clear cases, in my estimation, of abuse of power. Richard, you mentioned a moment ago the takeover of Belle Isle in the city of Detroit. The city council in the city of Detroit had $4 million in their budget, and the state said you need $6 million in order to properly maintain Belle Isle. Well, 4 minus 6 means we're $2 million shy of where we need to be. Instead of the state working with the city, because the city council actually did attempt, sort of, to stand up and say, we don't want you to take Belle Isle. The state of Michigan, through its emergency management, said if you don't contract your rights away relative to Belle Isle, we will overrule you in Lansing, which was the state of Michigan through emergency management. If the state of Michigan really wanted to help with Belle Isle, was it necessary for the state of Michigan to take the island over for 30 years? And then for a 30-year extension, and then for another 30-year extension? It was a property and a money grab. It was an abuse of power. There is nothing reasonable about anything that the state has done in the city of Detroit. There's nothing reasonable about what the state has done in the city of Flint. You can't take a city with poverty rates as high as the city of Flint and say you're going to pay in your existing state the highest water bills in the nation, but then I'm going to straddle you with some additional debt. It's called a Karagundi Water Authority. None of that's reasonable, and in my estimation, none of it's legal.
Based on your conversations, Bishop Jefferson, if you're still with us, and I know you're struggling with your phone, but what is your sense of the state of mind of the citizens of Flint as they have to grapple with these issues on a day-to-day basis?
The state of mind of the city of Flint is that many of them have given up hope
Mm.
because those that have been in authority has continued to lie backwards and forth. The water is good. We're bringing the rates down. They're making idle promises when they knew they were lying in the first place. It was a setup to, to destroy and to conquer. And if it had not been like grassroots people like myself and Leela McGee that had continued to fight, continued to speak up, continued to confront them when they told those lies to let them know that they were lying and they weren't true. We had town hall meetings so the people could speak out about their problems to let them know that somebody cared. And so we have continued to give them avenues to speak out, to have a voice. And that's a group that I'm over is caution, is a voice in the community for the community. Speak out for those people. That a lot of them don't even know they need to speak out. A lot of them don't even know they have rights. And so if it had not been for grassroots organization to stand up and say they're lying, to stand up and say that you have rights, to stand up and say you're not crazy because your water is brown, you're not crazy because your water is stinking, you're not crazy. There is something wrong. And so we have been the hope in the community. Other than that, they would have gave up a long time ago. And they still continue to lie because they have an alternative motive to say that by August, we don't need bottled water anymore. But people still can't take showers. People still can't drink the water. People still can't cook with the water. They're still breaking out. They're still having reactions. They're still getting sick. They're still dying. But they say it's all right. Just run it for a little while, which is a lie.
Well, and let me ask you, you said people are still dying. And I guess there has been some additional discussion surrounding this Legionnaire's disease, and which is really a rather complicated aspect of the flu, a more virulent part of the flu. Um, People were not identifying this as a swine flu, I'm sorry, as Legionnaire's disease early on. And has any investigation been done, do you know, about those individuals who were dying from pneumonia, but it had not been identified as Legionnaire's disease?
So true. They will not tell the truth. They didn't tell them that it was Legionnaire's disease. They said, oh, you have a bad case of flu. People have died. And now they're going back trying to research where they have died from supposed to be the flu and found out that it was Legionnaire's disease.
So we're really anticipating this number, Alina McGee Harvey, of 12 dying from Legionnaire's disease. We may very well see that number balloon significantly.
And that's what we talked about, and we believe the number is significantly much higher. And as Bishop alluded to, we fight a mini fight with a lot of our institutions working hand in hand with the state to cover a lot of this. And so it is, and it has been on the backs of the grassroots individuals who have kept these stories in the forefront, who are pushing forward. And even when it comes to Legionnaire's disease, we're going to continue that fight and to expose it. We have many battles here that we're fighting. We're taking on many battles. We're taking on institutions. We're fighting everything that you can fight us, but we're not going to become lethargic. We're going to keep the motivation to keep fighting, stepping forward to ensure that we have all of the answers and somebody held accountable for what has happened in our community.
Brother Patriot, thank you so much. Was there anything you wanted to say in closing?
Thank you for giving me the time, and I'd like to thank Bishop Jefferson and also Mrs. McGee Harvey for their tireless work in Flint and what they're doing for the people in Flint.
As a member of the thank you, Brother Pace. As a member of the ecumenical community, Bishop, how do you counsel people who really are really wrapped up and maybe depressed in these kinds of feelings of hopelessness? I mean, what do you say?
part of counseling is giving an answer or a solution to your problem. And the city has been giving out water since January 2016. I've been giving out water since August of 2014.
My.
We've been buying water on my own dime, not on the city dime. Even, Leva talked about the water drying up because the outside sources, people from other cities and other states, are slacking up and bringing water. So the people that are responsible to do it is the state of Michigan, and they have slacked up on their job. Whether some of the answers we do give away baby wipes, hand sanitizer lotion, Vaseline, 3-in-1 wash. Those are some of the things people don't think about because there is when you don't have water, you need baby wipes. When you don't have water, you need hand sanitizer lotion because they cannot run water out of the sink because it's breaking the kids out. It's breaking the adults out. My question is now is what is the right act? What am I saying? We don't know the effect on these children a year from now, 5 years from now. I want to bring this out. My grandson was an AB student, and he was supposed to be an academic ambassador to go to Washington for Genesee County in 2014-15 school year. His grades started dropping, and they did not send him to Washington to be the ambassador. He got a chance to go to Washington in March of 2016, which was this year, but he had 3 Fs on his report card. 3 Fs. He went from A, B student to F, D, E, F, failing. And it was because he cannot sit still. And because the teachers knew what he was capable of doing, what he had done in the past, they knew it was not his normal behavior. So he's one of the lucky ones that have been identified as being affected by the lead in the water. What we have to do is bring it out front to help to identify these people that have problems. One of the things that the city or the state is trying to do is a process of elimination. The blood prick or the blood draw. The blood prick or the blood draw, which to eliminate and say that they have no problem no more. Our voice in the community to say, we know you still have a problem. Don't stop fighting. Don't stop doing what you're doing because they say that you don't have a problem. They know that 30 days after you stop intaking the water, there's no evidence in the blood. It has went into your body. So what do? I help to console. I help to give answers to the community, not only my parishioners, but to the community. Wherever I go, I tell them, don't drink the water. Don't cook with the water. Whether I'm in a restaurant, whether I'm in the bank, whether I'm in the store, wherever I am, I make my voice heard to let them know we have a problem, and you're not crazy for thinking.
And that's an admonition.
They telling me one thing, and something else is going on.
That's an admonition that you have not changed. Don't drink
Oh,
the
no.
water. Don't ingest this water in any form or fashion.
Right. The reason
Bishop,
why come I have not changed because there are people still breaking out. There are people still getting sick.
Bishop,
And you know what really hurts me more than anything is to listen to Bishop's testimony day after day, to look at her fight, to be astute to the places that she travels to take this fight on. We have 432 churches, which means there is, 432 pastors, an additional 432 associate pastors, and how many deacons? Could you imagine if these people were not fearful and they stood up and they said the same thing that the bishop was saying, how fast we could actually transcend our community? But we have very few pastors who are speaking up and standing up for the rights and the health of our community.
Well, we know that the Snyder administration co-opted a class of pastors here in Detroit. I'm thinking that that may have happened with you,
It
with,
did happen.
with filters, for heaven's sakes.
Yep, it did happen. It
Uh,
did happen. And I think personally speaking is as the days turn, my
You have
stomach.
become very faint, so I'm going to hang up. I'm so sorry, and I thank you for the privilege of being able to share this time with you. And real soon we'll be able to do it again. God bless you is my prayer.
well, we really appreciate you so much.
And I was just going to ask the bishop what a typical day was like in terms of the number of hours that you have to dedicate to pouring enough water to brush your teeth, pouring enough water to cook, pouring enough water to get a bath, pouring enough water to shampoo your hair. I can't imagine the amount of time that you would have to allocate out of each day to take care of just your basic needs. I can't even imagine that.
Both Lee McGee Harvey and the bishop said that people think that somehow this situation has been mitigated, and therefore they are not as white hot interested in the charitable donations, the shipping in of the water, and what you were saying, Bishop, is that we absolutely need to have and maybe it would be you, Lena McGee Harvey, because we've lost the bishop. But we need to keep up the flow of water into Flint.
Right. And we have to keep in mind that the information and the language and the stories that are being sent out by the media at hand and at large are stifling the people, and the people are getting mixed messages in terms of, well, they're saying they can drink it, so we no longer need to send water into Flint. But that is not true. Water needs to be sent in. It is not safe. There was an article that came out probably about 2 days ago, and that article spoke about people who were drinking, people who had an opportunity to drink water. If you just only if you are a infant or a immune is compromised, you don't have to drink it. Well, if the water is bad for those individuals, the water is bad for everybody. So we don't want to send these mixed messages. Our water is not safe. We have a long way to go, and we have a long fight. But what's happening now is the media is misconstruing what is really going on the ground. And so we as advocates and warriors have to continue that fight to keep it in the forefront that we can keep our community as healthy as possible.
Let's go to the phone lines. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Hello,
Good morning,
caller.
Mr. Harrison and Mr. Wilcox.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Hey, between the two of you and your guests you have on the phone, how much money do you really think, just give a rough estimate, that this government has cost us in Flint? We're talking about the legal fees that the taxpayers have to pay for, and we're not going to talk about all the terrorist activity that the legislator and the governor is doing in Detroit, but just how much is it costing us right now? What is the bill for what has happened in the city of Flint?
You know, the real paradox that I get from your point is that they created this mess, and we really have to pay for it.
I know
Over $1
currently
billion.
right
We're
now
talking about.
with the
Oh, I'm sorry.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yes, Lena
No,
McGee
go
Harvey.
ahead. Go ahead. That's what I'm.
Yeah, Lena McGee Harvey.
Currently
Finish.
with the governor, he has a bill right now of just his private attorneys. That bill is about $6 million that the taxpayers are paying for him, and that's just private attorneys themselves. And then you have the taxpayers. We're paying all these bills. We're talking about from Attorney Schuette's office, Bill Schuette, all the way down. I don't think anybody's ever sat down, but I could imagine that number just being astronomical, just astronomical.
I'll call it. My time is up. Let me just take this last caller. Caller, you on the air.
Richard,
Yes.
Deputy Chief, these are the very reasons why I say the citizens of Flint should stop the economic flow of tax dollars going to the city.
You know,
Everything that they've mentioned, from the lack of water to water running out to the health issues, these are the very reasons why they would win this thing in court.
I got to leave it there, Chief. Little McGee Harvey, if you can kind of just give us your closing statement today.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I was glad Bishop was able to share It is my hope next week to be able to expound, if not bringing attorney, um, I can't think, shed that, in terms of amending that RICO contract because he was able to put together validation and facts of it being racially motivated, what happened to the city of Flint.
That's right where we are, really right in our wheelhouse. Thank you so much, Dr. Wilcoxon.
Mrs. McGee Harvey, I'm looking forward to you bringing the attorney on next week. I'll leave it at that.
And she makes it simple. Folks, I guess the big thing that my takeaway is that Detroit really has been in the forefront of, I guess, after the citizens in Flint, but certainly been in the forefront of being involved in collecting those items that are needed, the hand wipes, the sanitizers, and more water. I guess what we're learning is that certainly what we have done is really special and unique and really speaks to a big heart. But the job ain't finished. We need to keep raising monies and shipping all of this water and funds, if we can, into Flint because they are really preparing for a very difficult time. And can you imagine what it's going to be like when this thing gets into the cold months? Let's continue to put forth an effort to make this thing, make the lives of those in Flint just help to mitigate some of the problems that they're having to deal with. Leader McGee Harvey, thank you so much. Dr.
Thank you for
Wilcoxon, we
having me.
always appreciate you. We got to go. If you called and didn't get in, we certainly apologize. Join us next week. We'll be here. Thank you so much for being with us, and God bless you.